All right, y'all, in this video, we're going over fantasy points per game at the wide receiver position. Now, when we're taking these players in the draft, we don't want to just look on players' name values. We want to make sure we're finding these guys who's going to be producing for you week in and week out. We're going to go look at last year's rankings and find out who was able to produce on a fantasy points per game type of basis week in and week out for you. That way you can better plan for your draft so that you can dominate the leagues. Now, without further ado, let's get into fantasy points per game for the wide receivers. All right, we're starting here at number 12. We're going to start out here with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen averaged 13.1 fantasy points per game, and it was kind of an injury-riddled season for him. As long as he can stay healthy, Justin Herbert does look to throw him the ball, but he really wasn't playing consistent minutes probably until about week 12. He played about 2 to 3 games prior to that. Just injury-prone type of guy. He's been injury-prone for most of his career early on, so it's just one of those things that if we can get a good, healthy Keenan Allen, I think you can get a production pretty solid. I mean, he's one of the main wide receivers other than Mike Williams on that high-powered offense of the Chargers. Keenan Allen can definitely improve on that 13.1 average, but he has to stay healthy. It's kind of a wait and see. He's a very risky type of draft pick if you want to take him on your team, but if you do draft him, he ends up staying healthy. He could be a huge value for your fantasy team and help you gain another championship to your roster here. Let's go ahead and go over to pick 11 here for fantasy points per game, and we're going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins. He ends up with 13.3 points per game. He did have a 6-game suspension due to PED use last season, and when he got on the field, he was the main man. There was nobody really touching him or competing with him for targets until about week 14 when the quarterback play just went to straight dog crap. So as long as Kyler Murray is on the field and healthy, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be nice. Now, there's a huge rumor that DeAndre Hopkins will be moved, which I think is going to be a good option because the Cardinals, let's just face it, they're not really in contention to win anything, let alone make the playoffs. So getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins, kind of getting some assets for that, I think that would be the best thing possible. And depending on where he lands, DeAndre Hopkins definitely has the skill set to be able to improve on that 13.3 points that he averaged in 2022 in 2023. So let's move on along to the number 10 spot here. We're going to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown at 13.4 points per game. Amon-Ra St. Brown normally plays in the slot for Jared Goff. I think he was one of the main targets there since Williams was out with injury, but now that he is back, Jameson Williams could be vying for more of a workload on the outside, but where it's kind of a wait and see type of approach. But I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has way too much of talent to be able to just put to the wayside. He's somebody you can depend on pretty often, week in and week out. There's not many times that he's scoring under 10 points. I think he landed under 10 points. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times last season. So, and a couple of those were actually close to 10 points. So he's somebody that's going to average probably at least 10 to 15 points per game, and he does have the ability because he did score 34.9 points in week 2, so he does have those blow up ability type of games. But if you just want somebody that's kind of consistent at that 13.4 points, Amon-Ra St. Brown should be your guy in 2023. Now let's talk about another guy at number 9. Might surprise quite a few people. We're going to talk about Michael Thomas at 14.4. Now, he did only play 3 games last season, and everybody, you have to at least play 1 game or 2 games in the series to be mentioned. But Michael Thomas comes in at number 9. When he did play, he was effective. Now the quarterback play should be even better now with Derek Carr. Michael Thomas comes back on the Saints on kind of a prove-it deal. I think he's got the talent to improve on the 14.4. I know a lot of people might disagree with me, think he's really washed up, which he's not what he once was, but I still think that he could be a 15-point producer for your fantasy team if given the good opportunity. Him and Chris Olave should be a good little tandem duo out there for Derek Carr. Let's move on over to number 8. Talk about the last person in the tier 3 right here for fantasy points per game. We're going to talk about CeeDee Lamb coming in at 14.6 points. CeeDee Lamb is kind of disappointing if you're really going to ask me. I think he needs to be a lot better, a lot more consistent to be above 15 points per game as a top premier wide receiver in this league. It's kind of inexcusable when I'm seeing games of 3.9, 7.8, 7, 5.8. That should not happen with CeeDee Lamb, and I look for him definitely definitely to be able to improve on the 14.6 points per game. Now that Brandon Cooks is in town, should be able to take a little bit of that coverage off of CeeDee Lamb to be able to help him produce even better with Dak Prescott. So let's go ahead and move on to the tier 2 type of wide receivers in fantasy points per game. At number 7, we have AJ Brown at 15.0 points. Now, the Eagles were much improved in 2022. Jalen Hurts really came along, MVP type of caliber dude, and he can really get the ball to these guys, whether it's Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. These guys produce at a very, very high level. The only thing I can say about AJ Brown is kind of a boomer bust type of player for me. There's plenty of times that he might be throwing it to Devontae Smith. It might be his game and not AJ Brown's game. So it's kind of a flip-flop. You know, one game you're getting 20 or 36 points from AJ Brown. The other game you might be getting either 9, 6, or even he had 1.2 points in week 10. So he's kind of a boomer bust type of player, but more boom than bust, averaging 15.0 points per game. There's only 6 people who average better than him in 2022, so I think he'll definitely improve. He'll definitely be good. He has a good rapport and good relationship with Jalen Hurts, and it's only going to get better for AJ Brown. Coming in at number 6 is probably a little low for me, but it's going to be Ja'Marr Chase at 15.3. Now, Ja'Marr Chase could do better. He did miss 4 games last season, but I just think the rapport that he has with Burrow is kind of unmatched. You know, these guys went to college together, now they're in the pros together. He is a guy who can break it to the house at any given day. 15.3 points. If you draft Ja'Marr Chase as probably the number 2 wide receiver behind Justin Jefferson, you're not going to be disappointed. The guy is very consistent for your fantasy team, and he's somebody that could be a cornerstone that you can build around easily in 2023. Let's talk about the number 5 wide receiver, and that's going to be Stefon Diggs, coming in at 15.7 points last season. Stefon Diggs playing for the Buffalo Bills. He has the potential again to be able to put high 30-point games for your fantasy team. There's only a couple times he was actually below 10 points last year, so everybody thought Gabe Davis was going to take a lot of work from him. That ended up not happening, but we'll see what they happen. They might add something in the running game, could take a little bit from Stefon Diggs, but you know what you get with Stefon Diggs. He's going to give you that 15 points average per game, and you're not upset if you have him on your team. Stefon Diggs is definitely a good wide receiver to have as one of the cornerstone pieces for your team in 2023. Now we're going over to number 4. We're going to talk about Tyreek Hill at 16.6 points. You want to talk about a boomer bust type of guy? We're talking about Tyreek Hill here. I mean, this dude is the blazing. They call him the cheetah for the reason. You know, not many people can keep up with Tyreek Hill. You know, and that shows that there's only 3 people who did it better than him last season as far as fantasy points per game. And at 16.6 points, you got Tyreek Hill. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but the guy can produce and he can win you a week. I'm telling you, he could put up 40 points like there's no tomorrow. So he definitely comes in at number 4, and he's well deserved on that. So let's talk about the last tier 2 wide receiver that they had in 2022, and that's Davante Adams at 16.8. Derek Carr kind of honed in on Davante Adams. It's kind of, we're gonna have to wait and see what Jimmy Garoppolo does with Adams. Will he go up? Will he go down? But I think Davante Adams is the main target. Darren Waller is now out of there. I think Davante Adams is going to get plenty of workload from Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy still wants to prove that he can be a premier quarterback in this league, and I think he's going to ride Davante Adams to the promised land. I think Davante Adams will yet again have another good fantasy season for your team. Now, if you're playing Dynasty, probably not somebody you want to target. Davante Adams is definitely being long in the tooth, and he's somebody. There's definitely better players that you can go with besides Davante Adams as far as the age goes. But if you're in a redraft league, Davante Adams, there's nothing wrong with a late first round, early second round pick for Davante Adams, especially with the production that he's given you. So let's move over to tier 1. We're going to talk about at number 2, we're coming in at Justin Jefferson. He's coming in at 17.9 points per game. What can I say about Justin Jefferson? Everybody knows he is the best receiver in the NFL. He only came in number 2 here just by a little bit, but you know, week in and week out, you know what you're getting from the guy. It's very, very small chance that he's going to bust for your team. Fantasy playoffs last year, people got kind of hosed about Justin Jefferson, but for the most part through the season, you can depend on this guy. He's solid. Now that they don't have Adam Thielen there, he's probably going to be even better than 17.9. Kirk Cousins locks in on this guy, and he throws him the ball all over the field. So without further ado, let's go over to the number 1 wide receiver for fantasy points per game, and that's going to be Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp had 18.2 average points per game. He ended up playing 9 full games. In the 10th game, he did get hurt, but when he was on the field, they were locking and loaded on Cooper Kupp. The dude was scoring over 20 points per game in most of the games that he played. He's still a premier wide receiver in this league. A lot of people kind of forgot about him because he did get hurt. So Cooper Kupp is definitely a top 3 wide receiver in this league. People just need to remember what he did just a few years back, breaking records. So Cooper Kupp's got the route running, and that's why he had the 18.2 points per game, and he will be an amazing asset to your fantasy team in 2023. So let's go ahead and go over kind of a roundup of all these wide receivers here. We're going to start out here with Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson, then Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs and Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Thomas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and Keenan Allen. As always, thank you for watching the video as we continue to pump out more and more content to help you just dominate your leagues, making sure we're delivering on the best content we possibly can to help prepare you, to help get you ready in this off season, so that way you can go into the drafts knowing who you're going to be taking week in and week out, getting you ready to dominate. Doesn't matter how many leagues you're in, this channel is going to be for you. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, would really help me out. Hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these rankings and these fantasy points per game, what we're going over. But I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.